So we started with the opening lines of the 9th chapter, and then this is the continuation of those lines. And basically, the next lines in the chapter say that all the things that came before were said by the Buddha for the sake of wisdom. All the things which came before were said by the Buddha for the sake of wisdom, which then, of course, naturally raises the question, well, what are they referring to, all the things that came before? If we're trying to gain wisdom, the Buddha said all the things that came before were for the sake of wisdom, what were those things? Any ideas?
1 through 8.
Chapters 1 through 8, perhaps? Any other ideas?
The 5 perfections before wisdom?
That would be chapters 1 through 8, would be the first 5 perfections, right?
Renunciation and compassion.
What are the first 5 perfections first? Do you remember?
Giving with expectations.
So, giving what? Giving
Dharma,
stuff,
protection,
teachings, wisdom, ethics. Okay. And then after giving, we have leading an ethical way of life, right? Not harming other beings. And then not getting angry. Not getting angry when circumstances are perfect to get angry. When someone is really pushing your button. Not getting angry, right? That would be the next perfection, which is, challenge. It's not getting angry whenever things are going well. It's whenever people are really pissing you off, not getting angry, right? And then, enjoying goodness, enjoying doing good things, right? Enjoying virtue. And then concentration, meditation, right? Okay, so those are the first 5 perfections that came before wisdom. And those are the activities of a bodhisattva, right? That's what this book is about. This book is about how does a bodhisattva live? What is a bodhisattva's way of life comprised of? And he spent 8 chapters talking about these things, what a bodhisattva does, right? So some people did say, well, he's referring to the 5 perfections. Other people said, well, he's just referring to the chapter that came before, the 8th chapter, the chapter on meditation. That kind of the 8th chapter comes before 9. The 8th chapter is about meditation. You've got to be able to meditate deeply to perceive emptiness. Maybe the Buddha's just talking about that, right? Because emptiness has to be experienced in a deep state of meditation, right? So, to make direct contact with ultimate reality requires that deep state of meditation, right? Which is something like an hour or 2 of meditation a day. So, if we're serious about ending our suffering, it requires meditating seriously every day. Otherwise we won't be able to make contact with ultimate reality, and we'll just die an ordinary, helpless, suffering death. Go fast or slow, right? When we look at Buddhism as wrong, you just die an ordinary death, and maybe you're warm food or maybe you're not. If Buddhism is right, then you have a suffering death, and there's the next life, which is typically a lot worse with heavy suffering, for an average ordinary person. So why not meditate for an hour or 2 every day? If you want to suffer, don't meditate. Or if you want to suffer, then wait till it's really late at night and try to meditate. Whenever you're really tired, right? It's the suffering in and of itself, isn't it? Right? And the suffering of trying to meditate when you stayed up too late and you're sleepy and you can't, and you want to, but you can't. The suffering of not being able to turn off the TV and meditate sooner, whatever it might be. Anyway, so which one is correct? Gyaltsab says that the second way is better. Master Shantideva talks about all the other perfections, and Master Shantideva is saying, well, you can't get to number 6 unless you do the other 5. You have to be generous, you have to live a good life, you can't get angry, you have to be happy about doing good things, you have to be in deep meditation, and then you have to have a correct understanding of emptiness, right? And then you can get wisdom. Is that the idea?
You could.
What?
Some
So-
level, sorry,
No.
some level.
You get a little bit of
it.
wisdom.
We can, I mean.
You get a little bit of perfection. You get a little bit of wisdom. Anything?
It can't be zero, because otherwise then. You get a little bit though, and that little bit of wisdom support the other 5, and then it's kind of like it goes like this and eventually.
Sort of piggyback off each other, build off each other.
Didn't we learn that one leads to the other one is the kind of the foundation for the next?
You can't get to wisdom without the other 5.
Well, this is the
This
question.
is the question then.
Well, to have the positive potential required to be able to have a genuine interest in emptiness and a genuine interest in studying emptiness, the other 5 perfections serve as a basis for that. For someone to be interested in emptiness, to want to study emptiness, to want to read emptiness, because without the other 5 perfections, you're not going to have a positive potential in your mind to be interested in emptiness. You'll hear about emptiness and then you'll think to yourself, oh, that's nice. You won't want to study it. So they serve as a foundation for the mind to have the merit necessary to even be interested in emptiness.
Isn't also emptiness, or the understanding is a realization? Wisdom, unlike the other 5, which are perfections, practices, isn't wisdom a realization?
It's called the perfection of wisdom.
But it is called.
There is that.
But I thought it really arrives as a result. It's less.
You look like you're having deep thoughts, Bruce.
You see right through it. I don't think that really there's any direct relationship between the first 5 perfections and the 6. There's a discontinuity, which is why the direct perception of emptiness is always spoken of as a beyond the threshold kind of experience. I think what is accomplished with the first 5 perfections is these practices dumb down the interferences produced by certain kinds of behaviors and thoughts, so that a negative is alleviated. And it's not until these characteristic negatives of improper lifestyle, ungenerousness, anger, and so forth, it's not until they are perfected or suppressed that a discontinuous experience can be achieved. The qualitative experience of seeing that all of the subsistent nature of all of these other experiences was really a misapprehension, that none of them had self-existent nature, and that the perfection of them also didn't have self-existent nature. So it's just a question, the first 5 eliminate the negatives so that the 6th, as an affirmative experience, can arise. Not as their product at all, but just something which has been obscured by them until they are perfected.
The fact that it's posited as a question calls into doubt that it's even wisdom, isn't it? I mean, here it causes you to flop over.
Let's see what the text says. All very good points. So they have 3 different answers. Let's see if any of them sync up here with what we're talking about. Please say Lopon, Shitso, excuse me, Tarton, Nitu, Sungi, Tenla Bepa, Lang, Jinsokna, Nundudro, Migu. Alright, so this is the first answer, the first explication. So, Lopon means master or saint, a master meditator. And Shitso is short, is a nickname for Shantarakshita. So this is Master Shantarakshita's explanation, or his opinion, his presentation. I'm not going to go through all of Tibetan just because. Does anybody want me to go through all of Tibetan? I will. Alright. Okay, we'll move it along.
You don't have to take word by word.
Not word by word? Perfect. So, Master Shantarakshita says, his position is you don't have to practice the prior 5 perfections to learn about emptiness and to understand emptiness. He says, look, you're talking about emptiness right now. You're hearing me speak about emptiness. I mean, I say emptiness, you think a thought, you have an understanding. Might be a fuzzy understanding, might be an unclear understanding, might be a basic understanding, but the simple fact that we're sitting here talking about emptiness means that you have some understanding of it. So it can't be necessary to perfect the first 5 perfections to understand emptiness and to think about emptiness and to understand emptiness. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense at all. That's his first position and first presentation, right? It's not a direct perception, right? But there is a perception. And there is a perception of what we're talking about, right? And there's an understanding of it at whatever level it might be, right? So his position is of course we can gain wisdom, we can understand wisdom without the other 5 perfections being perfected. I mean, it's self-evident, he says. Right? There's a thing in Buddhism. Please say, Te, Sum, Gom. It's Tu Sum Gom. Tu, Sum, Gom. So, tu is to what? Hear, to listen, right? I have to hear something over and over and over again for it to sink in, something, especially something which is very deep and very profound. And this is sort of established Buddhist psychology or teaching theory, which is that, you know, our minds are like wood. They're fairly dense. For things to penetrate deeply into our mind, into our being, we have to hear them over and over and over and over again many times. So there are 3 steps classically involved. The first is listening, which involves a lot of hours of hearing a qualified teacher give a good explanation about difficult subjects. So in the case of emptiness and ultimate reality, to really understand it, even intellectually, requires a lot of class time and a lot of listening and a lot of discussion. Right? That's the first step. And it's, frankly, it's, you know, Holy Geshe Michael says thousands and thousands of hours. It takes thousands of hours of repetition to really get it and to really understand it on a very deep level. And over time, it becomes very subtle and very clear as a result of listening. And then the next step, which is thinking about it, contemplating. It's just thinking about it. You know, we're talking about these things tonight. You've got to go home and think about it. You know, next time you're about to lash out at someone, think, wait a minute, you know, how do they really exist, and what is the nature of perception, and how I'm perceiving them, and, you know, is it to my benefit to shout at them, or isn't it to my benefit to shout at them? What was he saying about that? And to contemplate the nature of reality and the nature of causation. You know, should I swat that mosquito that's on my arm, or shouldn't I? Let me think about it for a minute. Right? Let me think about how all this works and the nature of these things. So it's this reviewing, analyzing, thinking, contemplating over and over and over again, which is the second important step of understanding any concept, and especially deep and profound concepts like emptiness. So, and then the third is meditation. So the third is to have those deep hours of meditative practice on the cushion to try to directly experience it, to try to directly realize it, right? So to make that direct contact, right? But in the beginning, it's listening, it's learning, it's hoping for blessing, it's hearing it for the first time. And Master Shantarakshita says, of course, you understood something. No problem. Now go home and think about it. And you know, every time you think about it, you'll have another perception of emptiness. No problem, right? It's not direct, but you understand it more. So like that. Okay, so that's Master Shantarakshita in his opinion. Please say Tongyi, Lai, Gyurwe, Noa, Kewa, Lang, Nundudro, Migyu. Okay, so this is the second position about these lines in the text. And basically the English translation is that one can have a deep intellectual understanding of emptiness without the first 5 perfections. Right? It's possible to go to class, listen over and over and over again, contemplate it, think about it, meditate on it, and have a very deep and profound and holy understanding about ultimate reality and emptiness. to the point that it actually starts to change the way one lives in the world and the way that one perceives things. It's not a direct realization, and it's not a direct experience of ultimate reality yet, but it is a deep enough, a very deep, profound intellectual understanding such that a person is deeply affected by it, and it meaningfully changes the way they live and the way that they view the world, right? So it's gaining that kind of clear understanding, right? So, again, Master Shantideva, the text says, all these come before for the sake of wisdom, right? So, here the text is saying again, no, you can go to class, you can listen, you can contemplate, you can meditate, you can get a very deep and profound understanding of emptiness and ultimate reality without the five perfections, the first five perfections of the Bodhisattva. Okay? But then, what do you need the five? I mean, why bother? Right? And it's like, wait a minute, emptiness is the point, perceiving ultimate reality is the point, right? You can do that without the first five perfections. Why put the time and energy into the first five perfections, please? That's a lot of time and effort, right? Why should I restrain myself from being angry? Why should I, try to be nice to people? Yada, 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 right? I mean, what's the point of the five perfections? What do they get you? What benefit do the first five perfections offer? Ladies? Karma?
Well, all the things that I guess you would want to do after you have a direct perception of emptiness would be the first five perfections.
Aren't these,
No, if you're going to hit out of track, you see. If you're going to hit out of track, you're just thinking about little old me, not other people.
aren't these indirect perceptions, so they have a direct perception, you still have to practice the five
So Paul is saying, well, these are deep intellectual understandings of emptiness, perhaps, or beginning understandings, intellectual understandings of emptiness, but it's not the direct experience of ultimate reality. So perhaps you need the first five perfections to have the direct experience of
It doesn't
ultimate
seem like
reality.
this would remove your mental afflictions by understanding emptiness and learning about it.
Well, let's talk about the third. Let's talk about the third explanation. Basically, just to hear. It's what you were saying. To hear the word emptiness, to understand the concept of another reality. To understand the nature of reality on a deeper, more profound level requires vast virtue. It only takes millions of years of good karma, right, to be able to hear about emptiness and to be in this classroom. Being in this classroom, you're one in 100 million, 10 million, 1 in 10 million in this country. Forget about the planet. How many people on this planet are hearing, or being taught and told about profound, highest levels of reality, which will end all suffering forever, right? In an authentic, detailed, meticulous fashion. In an easily understood contemporary language. Not many. Right, I would venture a guess, So, it's 1 in 10 million, 1 in 100 million, I don't know. It's vastly, it's profoundly rare. And so, it requires massive karma to hear these things and to understand these things. To become fully enlightened, one gains not only wisdom, what else does one gain? Omniscience. And the ability to emanate to countless realms and beings instantaneously, right? So, if you remember, there are the two collections of merit and wisdom, right? The two great collections of virtue and wisdom, which produce the great collection of the massive collection of virtue produces
Body?
that body which is able to emanate to countless places and countless times, countless beings, right? And the collection of wisdom produces the first five perfections, therefore, serve the purpose of
Collection of merit.
producing an enlightened body which is able to emanate to countless beings in countless places at countless times to benefit all living beings spontaneously. Right? So that's what the first five perfections do and achieve. Number 4, right, So the third position, please say Nyen, Rangi, Tongyi, Tokpe, Gomjungi, Laktong, Yangye. And so this line says that listeners and self-made Buddhas, which are two Hinayana classes of practitioner, they do perceive emptiness directly, and they can have what's called special insight, Wakto, which is a very high form of perception, meditation on emptiness. So this line is saying, well, of course Hinayana practitioners can perceive emptiness and attain nirvana. I mean, are you saying that the whole entire Hinayana track can't achieve its goal of nirvana? Because the Hinayana track doesn't practice the 6 perfections. They're not interested in the first 5 perfections. But the Hinayana track does attain nirvana. It is a valid path which leads to nirvana. They do, and the only way to attain nirvana is to perceive emptiness directly and experience it, experience ultimate reality. So no, of course the first 5 perfections are not necessary to perceive emptiness directly. So, and then, this idea of listeners and self-made Buddhas, the idea with listeners is that they can hear Mahayana teachings, they can hear the teachings on the perfections and Bodhisattva track, but it doesn't work for them, it doesn't resonate, they can repeat it, they can teach it to other people, but they don't live it. And so they're called listeners, Shravakas, because they listen and they hear it, but they don't live it and put it into practice in their life. They're just interested in ending their own personal suffering and attaining nirvana forever. And then self-made Buddhas, they're neither Buddhas nor self-made, it's just a name. But the idea here is another Hinayana track person, and they've had countless teachers through countless lives. But in this last current lifetime where they become enlightened, they don't have a teacher teaching them directly. So they're called self-made Buddhas because in their last life they become enlightened without a teacher in that life. Or they had bazillions of teachers in previous lives to get them up to that point. So that's the idea. But they're both Hinayana track practitioners who do see emptiness and who do attain nirvana. Okay. So, one can have these deep understandings. One can have light intellectual understandings of emptiness. One can have deep, profound intellectual understandings of emptiness. And one can see emptiness directly without the first 5 perfections. However, the first 5 perfections are necessary to become fully enlightened, to attain the body of an enlightened being with the capacity to emanate and help other countless living beings. Okay. So we have to talk about something for 5 minutes. No.
There's one more line.
One more line? Damn, I got a lot of pages here for one more line. All right. Well, listen, we've done the first 2 lines. We've done the opening 2 lines of the chapter. Okay, there's only 100 pages, so we're cruising. All right, we're making good progress. We've got 9 classes to go. Okay. Anyway. So, just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. So, Master Shantideva and Gyaltsab Je are saying, look, if you're talking about the wisdom of the Buddha, then you're talking about omniscience, right? And if you're talking about omniscience, where you perceive every existing object in the universe that ever was or will be, then to get that, you have to have the other 5 perfections. Okay? You're not just hanging out in your own little personal paradise, blissed out in nirvana. Okay? If you're going to have omniscience and the ability to emanate, then it requires the other 5 perfections. So there's some kind of, in an enlightened state of mind, one has the ability to perceive every moment of the past, present, and future simultaneously in one instant. Every mind here has that capacity, and there's an obstacle, a block, preventing it if you're not enlightened right now. And so the practice of the perfections removes the obstacles and blockages in our minds which are obstructing us and preventing us from being omniscient right now. We have the capacity for omniscience right now. And if we remove those obstacles, we would be omniscient. And so the practice of the 6 perfections removes those obstacles so that we can have that capacity. Right? So, all right. So so Master Shantideva has introduced the concept of emptiness, and now he starts to teach about how to see it directly, which is the point of the class. So he did, he's in the opening verse or two. He said, "Well, what is emptiness? How do you get it? What's it do?" And now he says, you really have to start to get it in your mind what emptiness is and what emptiness is not. Okay? So, please say, I've lost my last page. What's the Tibetan? Because I'm not a Tibetan person.
What does it mean?
Well, what is the Tibetan verse?
Kunsop down knee, that last one.
Oh, I got it. Okay, sorry. It was just, I was looking for a short verse, and it's a long verse. So, yes, please say Kunzop, Damni, Dundam, Te Deni, Dempa, Nisidu. Nisudu. So, Kunzop Demba, please say Kunzop Demba. This is deceptive reality. Dungdam, please say Dungdam, is ultimate reality. Okay, these are the two truths, right? So we start to get into teachings on how to think about emptiness and how to think about reality and how to perceive it. And we have, Master Shantideva says, you've got to start to get clear in your mind between what is ultimate reality and what is not ultimate reality. Okay? And so he starts talking about the two truths, or the two realities, the two levels of reality. Okay? When you have a meditation assignment on your homework, when you go home and do your meditation assignment, you're going to think about what might ultimate reality look like. What might ultimate reality be like, to the best of your ability. Right? What is conventional reality like? What is included in conventional reality? So, just to start to get that beginning fuzzy understanding to make the distinction between the two realities, the two levels of reality. Okay, just to, what is ultimate reality, conventional reality? Conventional reality we've got. What is the opposite like? What might the opposite of that look like? Right? So, deceptive reality, we've lived our entire existence, our entire life and our entire existence. It's what our normal, for an ordinary human being, it's what our normal perception is. It's what we see all day long, and it's what we experience all day long. I can't look at anyone's face and say, oh, I know they see emptiness, or I know they haven't. We would never know if the person next to us is enlightened, or an Arya, or whatever great realizations they have. Right? So, it means deceptive reality you can also call fake reality. I mean, why is it called deceptive reality, not deceptive truth? It's a level of reality. This is our world here is one level of reality called deceptive reality. It's not really real. This is a misperceived reality. This is a fake reality. This is called a level of reality because we perceive it as real. So this is called reality. It's called a truth. Let's say it this way. When we talk about deceptive reality and ultimate reality, it's synonymous with the two truths. Okay? Higher reality is true. Ultimate reality is true. Emptiness is true, ultimately. Lower reality, this reality, deceptive reality, is called one of the two truths, but it's not true. Right? So, it's called true because we misperceive it that way. We think this reality is true. We think this level of reality is truly the correct reality and truly the real, significant reality that we should be living our lives in accordance with and behaving in accordance with. The laws of this reality that are apparent say, punch someone and they go away. Smash the roaches and they stop bothering you. lie, and you get something. Unfortunately, those laws are not, those are not truths, and that they don't always hold. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's not scientific. So this level of reality that we live in accordance with, according to what we think are the true laws of this reality that work for us, are wrong. This reality, which we consider to be true reality, is a suffering reality where all the laws we hold to be true are incorrect and cause us more suffering. Thinking that by being stronger, faster, more powerful, more abusive, getting the upper hand will lead to our happiness is backwards and wrong. And these are the truths that we live by, and they're wrong. And if you look anywhere in this reality, that's what you'll see basically is propagated as truth in the laws of life and behavior and how to get ahead and how to succeed and everything else. Unfortunately, it's wrong. And it's the source of every suffering in this realm. So, excuse me. So that's deceptive truth, right? We think it's true and we're deceived. Conventional reality. These are all synonymous. Conventional reality, deceptive truth, all talking about the same thing. This place here now. Our world. Okay? Ultimate reality, ultimate truth is called truth because it is true. It's simple. Okay? What happens if I can make contact with that reality for 20 minutes? Well, all sorts of wonderful things. I meet Buddha, I see my enlightenment, I know exactly how things work, I know what the true laws of the universe are, I know what true causation is, I know exactly what causes pain, and I know exactly what causes suffering, ultimately and really. And I know how to live my life in accordance with that. When I am out of that direct community experience, right? Which can only happen in deep meditation. So we go into deep meditation, we have this communion with ultimate reality, perception of emptiness, and then when we finish and when we come out, then we say, okay, I know the laws of the universe, really. I know the spiritual rules, really. I know what the ultimate source of every happiness and satisfaction and paradise is, really. I've seen it directly and I understand it and I know it. And I'm going to live that way from now on. And then that becomes the powerful basis for radically changing our lives and who we are. Right? So that after that experience, we very quickly change how we interact with everyone and everything, and how we behave with everyone and everything, such that we become more and more virtuous. Very quickly, it becomes this almost geometric progression of acceleration towards, complete purity and virtue and enlightenment. Right? Something like that. So deceptive reality is all around us. The metaphor of being surrounded by a crystal, or diamond or something like that. It's this irony that everything, ultimate reality is everywhere. We are ultimate reality. And yet we can't perceive it. It's like being surrounded by a completely clear diamond crystal wall, which you can just see through and you don't even know it's there. I mean, if you touched it, obviously, but just visually, right? So, deceptive truth is called truth because you think it's true. It seems to be true, and that's wrong. It's true to a mind which doesn't understand things correctly. And it's the cause of all the suffering of the world. So, on the homework it says, name the two truths, deceptive truths and ultimate truth. And they're called that because, to a mistaken, ignorant mind, one appears to be true. And the other really is true. Right? So everything in existence is either one or the other. Right? Every existing thing, in every reality, in every realm, in every dimension, is either ultimate truth or deceptive truth. Is either ultimate reality or just conventional / deceptive reality. Right? That is the division of all things. So, everything is either the lower reality or the higher reality. So, what about Teddy? Is Teddy is Teddy deceptive reality or ultimate reality? Both are there. Both exist. You know, these flowers, they're flowers. They're our conventional world. They're our conventional reality. There is a vase of flowers there. It is what we perceive and what we see. There's also ultimate, they're also empty, and there's also ultimate reality there. So it's a function of one's capacity to perceive what's there. You know, the irony is that every single existing thing that we ever encounter is both. There is ultimate reality there. Every single interaction with every single object, being, anything we can think of, has ultimate reality, and we are in contact with, on some level, ultimate reality. Right? Even though we're only consciously perceiving conventional reality and deceptive reality. Would that the mind had the capacity to perceive at another level, at any given instant, we would be perceiving ultimate reality constantly. If the mind had the capacity to perceive ultimate reality continuously, we would be perceiving everything's ultimate nature all the time, which is what an enlightened being perceives, basically. An enlightened being perceives ultimate reality all the time. It's one of their qualities, right? So, if you took away one reality, the other reality would have to go too. You can't have one reality without the other. It's not possible to have one level of reality there without the other level of reality being there. If there is something there, conventional mind will project something onto it. Must. If there's something there, it has an ultimate nature. So, however many, how many ultimate realities are there, in this room? A lot, right? I mean, every hair has its ultimate reality. Every stubble on the chin has ultimate reality. It's like we're swimming in it, It's like we're living in it. We're living with it all around us, and never perceiving it, never able to contact it. So, So those are the two truths. So this is a very profound chapter, and don't be wimpy and don't be lazy. You can believe these things or not. They are very holy and profound, and it's only through study that one can really penetrate into them. And it's only through meditation that one can have a realization of them. And once one has even a solid intellectual understanding, one begins to relate to people differently and live in relation to people differently. And one lives much more virtuously because one is interacting with the expression of their mind. If one understands that one is projecting one's reality and the events and the beings around oneself and their identity and their nature and their value and their goodness or badness. If one recognizes that one's own mind is the source of all these things, then the way in which one relates to everything outside of oneself is the way in which one relates to oneself. And it becomes much easier to not behave so badly. Hopefully.
Dropping on the Shingla Tribasho Hiram Viratna Mandala Kamninyatayami Gawadi Garoku Sinan Yeshe Sapsakshin Sinan Yeshe Lejunhui Rampa Kuli Tapasho.
Take a moment to, again, be aware of all of the beings around you, free of any conception. Call up the idea that they are holy in your mind. Let it abide there. Hold that thought in your mind. Project it onto all the beings around you. Thank you, holy beings, for coming, seen, unseen. All of the teachers of the past, present, future. By the power of this goodness, may we quickly perceive ultimate reality, ending all suffering, all beings in all realms. Quickly in this lifetime. Thank you. Pleasure. See you next week.
Bring your car time with you?
Yeah, of course.